Welcome to Nerd Narrates, where I pick the best stories from the internet and share them with you. Let's begin the video. My mom and dad got divorced when I was quite young, and my mom remarried in a couple of months. My biological dad was not that well settled and would provide the least. He was an irresponsible and careless person who did not care what was going on with the family. My mom and dad would fight day and night as my mom was always concerned and my dad could not bear her questions. Whatever little money he used to earn would spend on his friends and never brought enough to the house. My mom thought that their separation was going to make me suffer, but soon she realized that I was suffering more than they were together. So my mom filed for divorce, and my dad told everyone that she had an affair and wanted to run away with that person. When my mom remarried, so many people believed my dad, but my mom did not care at all. My stepdad was a great man. He got me enrolled in a reputable school. He was a music teacher in a high school and was a very responsible person and looked after every need of mine. We were at least a happy family and I got a normal life. A couple of years later, my stepsister was born and we could not be happier. Life was going so well, and then my stepdad was diagnosed with cancer. His treatment went on for a while, and then he passed away a year later. We were devastated. We had to face a crucial financial crisis and had no idea how we were going to manage it. My mom started working in a bakery and managed the household. I also started working when I was in high school and helped my mom. After my stepdad's death, my mom got in with several men just to get over the mental stress she was going through forever. She would get into a relationship with random guys and then would dump them and move on. It never bothered me as I was always out studying or working. I used to only worry about my younger sister. I completed my degree and applied for jobs everywhere. As soon as I got stable, I moved out with my sister as my mom would bring a new boyfriend every week. And I did not feel that was healthy for my sister. My sister moved out when she was in high school, and after that, I was on my own. That was when I got into a relationship, and my ex-boyfriend suggested I move in with him. My apartment was bought in installments, and I was still paying those installments, of course, while I was living with my boyfriend. My mom called me one day and asked if she could move into my apartment, as it was empty, so that she could save the rent she was paying for her apartment. I asked her what she would do if I decided to move back anytime. She assured me that she would move out right away. I told her that she could get the keys from me and could use my apartment. So, my mom decided to move in, and I did not even visit as I got busy with my own life. After a few months, I decided to visit my apartment, and to my shock, it was turned upside down. I did not have much furniture, but whatever I had looked years old. My room was a mess and the bedsheets smelled the worst. I asked my mom what was up, and she said that she was going to clear everything. I knew she had been bringing God knows what sort of people, had ruined the apartment, so I told her that she had to leave. My mom was stunned and asked me if I was telling her to get lost. I told her that it was my property and I had a right to throw her out. I told her that she had to leave within the month or I was going to involve the police. My mom called me several times and apologized, saying that she would put the apartment at its best and that she just needed a chance. When I was not convinced, she started weeping and reminding me of all the worst times we had managed together and how she had divorced her first husband for my sake. I did not say anything and hung up. I don't know what to do. I cannot let her ruin the only thing I've hard earned and also cannot kick her out. Update 1. My mom kept calling me and trying to convince me. She also came to my place and also begged me to give her a chance. When she felt like I was not convinced, she contacted my boyfriend and asked him to talk to me. I had already told him the whole situation. He suggested that I should give her a chance and supervise her stay. I also felt the same and called my mom to tell her that she could stay but had to renovate the apartment. I went to see how it was going on a month later, and a stranger opened the door for me. He recognized me and told me that he was my mom's boyfriend. I went inside and met my mom. The apartment looked in better condition but was still a bit messy. My mom told me that her boyfriend was a bit messy and that she was just about to clean. I came back and was not comfortable with the idea of strangers living in my space. I called my mom and told her that she had to keep her boyfriends out of my apartment and that if she wanted to live with them, she could move in with them. My mom tried to explain, but I told her that she had to listen to me if she wanted to stay in my apartment rent-free. Update 2. I broke up with my boyfriend and moved back to the apartment. My mom had moved in with her boyfriend, so she was not there. Only a couple of weeks went by and she was back. She told me that she had broken up and was now going to live with me. As I own a one-bedroom apartment, you can imagine how difficult it gets to stay with a parent. I suggested to her that she could rent a space for herself, as I could not keep her forever. She got hurt and said that she never thought of kicking us sisters out when we needed her the most. I asked her if she was okay living in the lounge, as I knew she would never agree, but she said that she could manage to live in the lounge. Okay, so it went well for a month, but then she was already into another guy and brought him to the apartment without even asking me. When I asked her what was going on, after coming back from the office, she said that they were both going to stay in the lounge and could manage well. I was shocked. I told my mom that she had to leave along with her boyfriend or I was calling the police. She took a few of her things and left with him. I can't even believe her. I was not allowing her to stay after I'd moved in, and there she was with a new boyfriend telling me they could adjust. Sick. Update 3. I changed the locks as I had to be at work and then had joined a gym, so I was away most of the day and knew that my mom was going to try to move in again. She had the keys to the old locks, so I could not take a risk and got them changed. My mom, of course, returned and tried to get in while I was at the office and found out that she could not unlock it. She called me and asked me what was going on. I told her that I'd changed the locks and she could leave or she would have to face the consequences. She said that she had broken up and was all alone, so I did not need to worry. I told her that she was going to get into a relationship in the next 5 minutes, so she could wait in the parking lot until then. My mom posted a rant on Facebook telling how terrible I was as I did not let her in and left her on the street. She also explained how she had managed us sisters all alone, and now we were nowhere close to her when she needed us the most. She also said that I was jealous of her as I could not get a man and was pissed. Just to mention that my sister had moved to state as she was able to get a fully funded scholarship for her degree, so mom could only make my life a living hell. I have called my mom and told her that she was being ridiculous and making our family a laughingstock on social media. I told her to delete the post or she was going to bear it. Update 4. I reported my mom's post, but no actions were taken, so I just let that go. My mom did not stop calling me and kept crying, telling me that she was homeless and needed space. I told her that she lived on her own before moving into my apartment and still could afford one for her, but she just wanted to stay for free. My mom said that she wanted to stay with me as she hated to live alone. I told her that she had to pay the rent if she wanted to move in with me. My mom hung up, and I knew she would stop bothering me as she was never going to pay the rent. The next day, my mom showed up and kept knocking at the door. When I opened it, I saw her with a man, and she announced that they were going to stay for 2 nights only, and then they were moving to state. I could not believe her and told her that she had to get lost. My mom said that I should not embarrass her in front of her boyfriend and pushed me aside to come in. I called the police right away and reported them for trespassing. The cops were here and arrested both of them. They were fined, and of course, that man dumped my mom. NTA should have never allowed her mom to use her apartment, and even if she had, she could have taken rent from her. OP should have signed a contract with her mom and should have restricted the entry of strangers, but of course, OP trusted her mom with her property. I'm glad she involved the police at last, because her mom was not going to leave her alone otherwise. NTA, OP's mom was such a pain in the A that she cringed me out throughout. How could she get comfortable with every other man and let him move in with her? How could she trust anyone like that? She could have landed herself in trouble. Also, when she was already managing to stay all by herself before OP allowed her into her apartment, She could manage that again, but of course, no one wanted to pay rent. Next story. My sister and I never got along. Let's call her Jen. Jen was born with a cleft lip, which she had surgery to correct, and has lazy eye. Most likely will never be able to have children and some other minor health problems. My parents always baby her because of that. All throughout my life, I've been forgotten about. My parents forgot to come to my school plays or my basketball games, have forgotten to pick me up from them, have not gotten me gifts for my birthday, but gotten Jen stuff. Now, all of that I could live with because they're my parents' wrongdoings, but my sister enjoys it. She uses my parents' favoritism against me. For example, she once cut a big chunk of my hair because a guy she liked asked me out, which I declined. When I told my parents about it, all she had to do was cry and they start feeling bad for her and forget that she ever cut my hair. And on another occasion, I worked my butt off to convince my parents to allow me to have a pet dog when I was like 14. I got a lap dog and paid for him all by myself. My sister fell in love with him and convinced my parents to give him to her. Now, I became pregnant and am expected to have a baby girl. My sister became obsessed with the idea of becoming an aunt and started buying things for my daughter, texting me with instructions on how I should decorate her nursery, made a name list for her, which her top name ended being her very own. She even brought a little onesie that says Mini Jen and told me that's what I'm going to be naming my daughter. Of course, I told her no way, I'm not making my daughter after, and told her that if it wasn't the case of her being my sister, I would have already cut contact with her. She told me that since she allowed me to date her crush, it's only fair that she gets to pick the name of our first child, which I honestly find beyond ridiculous. She didn't even tell me that she liked the guy I was dating until I became engaged to him, and she also continuously commented on how ugly she thought he was, and even if that was the case, her logic still doesn't make sense. I ended up getting a call from my parents with them commenting on how selfish I am and that I know that my sister will most likely never be able to have children of her own and that I should just give her this one and that I hurted her feelings. So I gotta ask, am I the a-hole for not allowing my sister to name my daughter after her? NTA. Mom and Dad, you both need to pull your heads out of your asses. This is my baby, not Jen's. If you say anything more on giving my sister my baby's first name, clothes, nursery, etc., then I will cut contact with you too. Jen has already pushed my boundaries beyond what is reasonable and rational, and if you keep it up, you'll be joining her. You're on thin ice. Jen can't have kids, that's unfortunate, but she can't have mine to compensate, and that's the reality. It's not my job, but especially not my baby's job, to be her emotional support animal. Get her another puppy that she can name after herself. But my baby and any babies after are entirely off limits. That is not negotiable because I do not negotiate with emotional terrorists. Tell sis she won't be seeing my baby for the first year. Any objections or harassment will add another year to that. The same goes for you too. So keep yourselves in check and leave sis at home. If you try and facilitate any meetings between my baby and her, or so much as bring her up in conversation, you will not see my baby for 3 months for each infraction. I do this to protect my child because my baby is not on this earth to support Jen or act as a pacifier for her. NTA. You might want to consider going low contact or no contact with your parents and sister. I don't know about anyone else, but the phrasing of she'll most likely never be able to have children of her own, and I should just give her this one is extremely creepy. Do they expect you to just hand your daughter over to your sister because she asked nicely? Next story. I'm a 35F who has 4 other siblings whom I have a very close relationship with. Our father recently passed and left a big inheritance. I was also left in charge of dividing his assets and taking care of his business. My father confessed to me that there was another sibling, F38, that the family was unaware of. It says, money brings forth evil and greed, and indeed it has. As any concerned child, I dotted all I's and crossed all T's with a blood test, which concluded this woman was indeed my sister. I've taken the time to get to know her and my nieces. My siblings were welcoming, as was my father's wife. The moment my father passed, which was weeks after him dropping his love child on our lap, they changed, especially upon learning she'd been named in the will. They felt it was my doing since I was the executor of such, but they failed to realize this was my father's wishes. It infuriated my father's family, which includes his wife, her kids, my aunts, uncles, and cousins, who were looking forward to my father's money. Mind you, these people weren't around on a day-to-day basis. They used him like an ATM. If it had been up to me, I'd cut his wife out as well. Because in the end, it was me who had taken care of my father until his dying day. His wife and her kids were making purchases with his money while he was on his deathbed. I believed my father left me in charge because he knew I would do the right thing. There wasn't a specific amount that was to go to those named in the will. It was up to me. This is what my father wanted. He admitted that he wasn't there for my secret sister as he had been for me and my siblings. Therefore, I felt she deserved every penny I'd given her, and then some. Unfortunately, that came with his wife and other relatives contesting the will and me practically being shunned by my father's side, which I honestly couldn't care less about. I've been receiving all kinds of verbal abusive calls from my aunts, uncles, my stepbrothers, and sisters about how I betrayed the family. Oddly enough, my own siblings have cold-shouldered me because of it, but I don't see why. AITA? NTA. Start recording the calls for the court hearing. Judges don't look fondly on people who do that. Extended family also looks bad when a person has a wife and kids. They can go to court and spend their part on lawyer fees, and I would dedicate all lawyer fees from any person involved in the case. Leave them $10 apiece. The hardest road is doing the right thing for the right reasons. You're not going to win friends and influence people. You'll sleep soundly through the night. NTA, but I'm mildly calling your dad one for putting you in this situation. A third-party law firm with the numbers was the best way to go when it involved a substantial amount of money and the relatives out the wazoo. That said, what a loving relationship you two had, and that needs to be celebrated. I know that death makes people weird, been through it myself. My own mom was thrown out of my dad's family for what she said at the funeral. And also demanding money. I didn't get to grieve for my beloved grandmother until this year, 30 years later. Take some time alone and feel your grief without these nerds making life miserable. You deserve to be sad, you deserve to cry, you deserve to rage at the sky. I'm so sorry for your loss.